there is something that you found at that young adults event that you kind of grabbed onto. And so now to kind of pivot into what you're doing now with
Sure.
Catholic culture, what is it that inspired you about that experience? What is it that you may have taken from them and brought to the Catholic Church? And how can, I know this is loaded, but
Yeah.
how can the Catholic Church learn from you?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. Well, so first of all, um, what started, this whole young adult push is, so I learned from this, um, so I learned from the young adult ministry what a community that has a burning desire to love God back, in a sense, looks like, from that non-denominational young adult group. From the Catholic Student Center, I found what a Catholic community of young adults that care about your well-being looks like. And so I started trying to figure out a way to tie that together. And to no fault of the Catholic Student Center whatsoever, but university student centers are meant for universities. And that's their target audience is those who are in that college, and that's what they should be. But that's not enough for a young adult population in the area, in your area. There's not everyone goes to college, not everyone goes to that college.
Right.
So anyway, after that whole thing, I'm broken, whatever. I dive into this ministry work. They kind of encouraged me to kind of get in, to kind of pour that out into something positive. So I started doing young adults retreats. I joined the team for Theology on Tap. I did those retreats, and in that summer, I helped the university pick some students, or the university student center pick some students, and they go help at the youth convention. And so in that convention, I kind of, at some point between the retreats I was helping run and that convention, I had this idea that, what if we took what all that is good from that young adult ministry and apply that to the Catholic Church? Is I started fishing this around, just shopping around, seeing what people thought, and I got a lot of no's.
Which is incredible, because they do. So non-Catholic Christians do that well. They target the young adult group and they keep them in, and that's awesome. And so the fact that you got a bunch of no's from that, when that's the major demographic that's leaving the church, is crazy to me.
Yeah, well, okay. And I do have to clarify a little bit. Some of the no's, not many, some of the no's were young adults. A lot of them were actually people who just worked in ministry. I had talked to some awesome people, but they were and I wouldn't even say all of them were no's. It was a lot of it's never going to work. And it was it's stuff like that. So I got more no's than I expected, and a large amount of it'll never work. And I think a lot of the no's was this fear of young adult events. Our young adult ministries had been attempted and they'd never worked. And it's why waste money on it and stuff? Why waste your time that it's not going to work?
Sure.
And I have a problem with that. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, man, it was just a lot of discouraging moments that somehow didn't discourage me. And that's why I'm I know it's God fed, because anytime I get down on something and want to give up, it's hey, if you end up doing this, we've got this for you. You can have it, it's whatever it may be. And I'll get into that a little bit in a second. But I talked to the youth minister at the time of my home parish while I was there at that convention. And I threw it at her, and she was the first one to be that's amazing. I love that. I'm super busy this summer. Let's meet in August. Let's talk about how we can make this happen. Okay. Fine by me. I didn't expect a yes that quickly. So I waited about a month and a half. I'm shopping around names and stuff like that, trying to figure, you got to get your branding right, and so I'm doing the whole thing, and I'm getting ready for this meeting. I sit down and meet with her, and I'm look, so this is my idea. And at the time I wanted to make it something that we ran for the diocese. I wanted to be involved. The one thing I didn't want to do is lead it. And she's like, the moment like we meet, she's like, this is beautiful. This is wonderful. You're going to have to lead it. And I was like, no. That's not for me. I appreciate it. But no, she was like, this is what was put on your heart. You've got to be the one to do it. And so that started the process of like, okay, well, fine, let's build a team and let's go. I got a lot of no's, like I said, or a lot of it's never going to work. And so during that process, I decided that we weren't going to go through a parish. We weren't going to go through a diocese. We're going to be independent. And the reason being, and I'm going to be completely candid here, and maybe this is a hot take, maybe it's not. Hopefully, if anyone local listens to this, they don't get too upset. But honestly, who cares? Let's just speak truth here. The church is ministry work. Let's just go with ministry work. It's hard and it's messy and it's very broken. And there's a beauty in that because the church is built of a lot of broken people and which it just speaks to how beautiful the church is because it's still standing through all its brokenness, all its wounds, all its the things it's done, wrong or
right.
The people it's hurt, but like it's still here and it's still strong and it's still truth. But there is a lot of hurt in there, and I didn't want someone to come in and see what we're doing and either find it to be, because for some reason ministry is also very competitive from parish to parish, so find it to be what do you call it, like overstepping their bound, whatever, or like being, just the
stepping on their toes. Yeah.
And so it's like, well, if we're not tied to a parish, if we're an independent organization that my parish is just hosting, that there's nothing that they can really do that can, shut us down or whatever. We can just move on to the next space. And so that was kind of our protection from the politics of ministry. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that meant no funding either. So we had to do fundraising and donations. The entirety of Catholic culture is ran by donations, funding. We do odd jobs, like our music ministry does music for masses. Sometimes we get paid for that. Yeah. We do, and within our t-shirt sales, that's what funds our ministry.
That's awesome. I want to make a comment about that because I think sometimes the church gets knocked for being kind of bureaucratic, rightfully so, gets knocked for that. But we do have the freedom as Christ followers to kind of start our own thing within the guidelines and the structure of church teaching, obviously. But what you're doing, what you've done is awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's I don't think I've answered any of your questions yet. Now I'm thinking about it.
You're saying great stuff, man.
Well, I hope you wrote those questions down because I had to lay the backstory a bit, I guess. But you want to repeat some of your questions so I can get to those?
Yeah, no, you hit them. You hit them. Like, what inspired you? What did you take from there? And then, what can the church learn from you to really expand what you're doing?
So here's the thing. We've learned a lot throughout. So we launched in 2020, which is awesome, great, except for the fact that we launched in January. We spent 6 months building up. Our first event had 80-something people there. It was amazing. Yeah. Now, granted, I have a team member who is one of my, which we'll get to this, I guess, later, podcast host. He was from Baytown. He is Zach LaBeouf. Feel bad, sorry, on Yes Catholic, Josh, if you were, or Josh and Zach. If you are listening, I didn't give y'all the shout outs. My other co-host is also named Josh. I meant to shout them out. Anyway,
we got you here, man.
Yeah, we got you. I'll make sure to give y'all full credit here in a little while. But Zach's from Baytown, so he had some people who, we hyped this up for 6 months. So he had people from Houston coming in. We just had people from all over who had seen our stuff and like they were never going to be able to go to another event. They had to make a trip out here to come and see it, but it was awesome. And I gave the worst talk of my life that night. It was awful, but it was kind of a start of like something. And so our next event was good. We did see it a decrease, but our first event happened right before most colleges went, like the week before like the classes started again.
Mm-hmm.
So we do obviously we lost some people because of that too, but I like to not beat myself too much up on the fact that my talk was so bad. But anyway,
yeah, no, I mean, you're doing the right thing. Your heart's in the right place.
yeah, absolutely. That's a whole nother, I guess, another story. But we launched, and then 2 months later, March, the COVID hits. Literally it doesn't hit the day of. Our county shut down the day of our event.
Yeah.
So we're set up, we're ready to go. We're trying to see what we're gonna, because it's like, man, I don't know what all this COVID stuff's about. I'm hearing it's in our area now. Should we cancel? Should we not? Then we got the message that like, hey, county shut down. It's like, okay, well, we're already here together.
Yeah.
We were planning something. Let's do something. So I'm gonna brag for a moment to my team. I like to claim, I don't know if it's true, but I'm pretty sure we were the first church organization through COVID to live stream an event, because we shut down, and the day of, we were already set up. So we went to Facebook Live. We reset up our whole like music thing to the front, because the way we do our events is we do a lot of music and so like praise and worship, Divine Mercy Chaplet, whatever. But we set our musicians in the back so that they're not focused. And we have our lyrics in the front. Everyone's facing the other way. It's an audio nightmare, but it allows people to listen to the songs. It allows our band to do their thing,
right?
But also not be the focus. You don't have, it's no longer a performance anymore.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's how we set up our setup. But for this, we had no crowd. So we set everyone up at the front, and we just live streamed for about, I don't know, it's still on our Facebook somewhere. If you scroll back, we saved it. And yeah, it was beautiful, man. They adjusted. We did not have a setup for it very well at all, but we live streamed just a praise and worship service, just like sing along, pray with us, pray while we're doing this, hop in. It's all we knew we could do. And so that's what we did. And then we were shut down until probably about May. I think we might have tried one more live stream. It just didn't feel the same. And so in May, we did an outdoor adoration. And then we were shut down again until Annie Hickman came and spoke in October, November of 2021. No, 2020. Yeah. So that fall, he came and spoke, and that kind of kicked off us doing live events again, with precautions and all that kind of stuff. But like that's what kind of kicked it back off. But I say all that to say that we started with a very specific mindset of, let's rock these young adults world, like let's provide something that, because our goal, and it still is our goal, is to provide this bridge between traditional like Catholics and more of the charismatic type, Catholics. We like to bridge the gap. My team, I have some of the most traditional guys I've ever seen and talked to on our team, and people who go to our events. And then I've got people who are the complete opposite, super charismatic, or just very just like I said, like praise and worship, all that kind of stuff. And so we try to offer a little bit of everything. And the reason for that is I kind of have projected my own spirituality onto Catholic culture, because there's a lot of aspects of the church that I love the tradition of, but at the same time, I can be very charismatic, whether I like it or not. And I still don't understand it very well. I'm still trying to figure that out, but like, that's just kind of how I am. And so I try to reflect that. And I wanted to provide something for everyone. And it's been awesome, because like our original goal was to try to pull people from leaving the church. I don't know if I mentioned this, but like the reason why I started to mention it, but I got distracted. But the reason why I found it so important is because like our target audience wasn't just like college kids. It was those who went to the military, it was those who went to trade schools, those who went to, like, who were done with college. It was like, we're trying to reach everyone within this 18 to
30-ish,
20,
right?
30-ish,
Yeah.
range, wherever. And we're trying to hit them well, and like really dive into that, and give them something to come to and to enjoy, to bring like the Catholics who are leaving, to bring them what they're desiring. But at the same time, I find that in a lot of ways we fail. And the reason being is, you start focusing on the wrong things, and you start focusing on like, the looks, the music, the sound, the trying to like, you try to keep it from being a performance, but then at the same time it still becomes one. So we kind of reshuffled after that summer when we took that break because we had no choice. During that time, we kind of like refocused on like the new, I guess, goal was to build, like, continue to build this community, which is what Catholic culture is named after, is like building this community for young adults, this Catholic community that they can come to, changing the culture within the young adult community. But also it's a focus on prayer, man. I got into this deep like spot in my spirituality where it's like, dude, we don't pray together. Like, we say we pray for each other, but we don't pray together. And so we've been pushing that, just trying to change the mindsets, man. And I've seen this is where I think we've really hit the nail on the head, though, is like, I've seen some of the most traditional people who couldn't stand and like would discount certain things in the are like, look, it may not be my thing, but like, I love it when y'all do this now, and or I love that, or whatever. And the ones who are, on the other side, it's like, man, I really enjoyed that too, and stuff like that. And we got Bishop David Toops here in the Diocese of Beaumont. It's incredible. When he came in, he met us. That was a cool story. He came to visit my parish, and I introduced myself afterwards. And he told me that his sister, who lives like, I forget which state she lives in, but had heard about us and told him about us beforehand. So he's looking forward to meeting us.
That's like, awesome.
That's really cool. But yeah, he, does, I mean, he's just incredible and really supportive of what we do. And so he came and hung out at our Christmas event, which we're going to try to live stream our Christmas event next year, because I'll be honest with you, one of the coolest, it's kind of like a form of Lectio Divina. It's very similar to, I always forgot what it's called, something in carols or whatever. I don't know. It's some sort of traditional prayer service I didn't know existed. So we created this whole prayer service, and it was like, we just accidentally recreated like something that's existed in the church forever. And but we do it in our own kind of little way. And I don't know, the people who are involved, like my team does such a good job with it. And so I think that's just kind of been the whole thing. Like, I've experienced people who go often, who've joined our team, who've done different things. They're getting more involved at church. They're caring more about the church. They're growing their own spirituality. And so where I get down on myself, because I'm not seeing, like, I have to see all the ugly sides of it all, because we still get the whole, like, I don't know, just kind of like pushback, because for some reason, a lot of people don't like young adults. And
then they wonder why that's the age group that's leaving.
Yeah. And so, and I'm not going to get into all that right now, because it's a mess, but, yeah, man, it's just like, I don't know, seeing the growth, seeing like how much it's impacted. I've almost given up so many times, and then you hear like the impact. And like I said, like, God always pulls me back in whenever I'm ready to give up on it, because like, you just hear the impact that it's made on some of the people who've been going. I'm like, man, like, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't realize that. And so I think kind of shifting the focus on this conversation a little bit, but you said, what can they learn? What can the church learn? I think the first thing is, if you're going to do young adults, let young adults lead it.
Man.
That's number one with young adult ministry. Is I've seen too many of them fail because and no offense to, like 40 is not old. It's not old. But a 40-year-old's dealing with different things than a 25, 27, 30-year-old's dealing with. And at the same time, you've lived a lot of life in the in-between. And society changes. And what, like, the demands that it puts on people changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might not be that far out, but you're disconnected. And it's fine if you want to help, but you've got to let young adults lead young adult ministries. So that's number one. Number two, make sure I know a lot of people don't like that community, like, buzzword or whatever, but let your community just really develop. Let it be the focus, because I like to point towards Simon. When Christ is going through his passion, and he's beat up, he's tired, he's fallen, he allows Simon to pick him up and help him carry his cross. And I think for a lot of us, that kind of shows not just Christ's humility, but that it's okay to have help.
Yeah.
It's okay to accept help, and it's okay to reach out to people to help, even if you feel like, Jesus is Jesus. He is the Savior. A lot of those people, although they were ridiculing him, like, witnessed the great things that he's done. And so to go and recognize that even if he's pulled into it, to still help carry Christ's cross is an important lesson for us, that we have to build up that community to allow ourselves to be helped and to help when we need it. And that's what, when I was going through the death of Alex, that's what my community did for me. That's what I've tried to do for other people. It's what I've witnessed those who have started going to Catholic culture, the Catholic Student Center. It's these community, like the young adult ministry at the non-denominational church, like, all of them, they're there for each other. They build this community. And so it's just strengthening that community in prayer and in love, and then extending it out. That's the first step, and then from there you kind of dive into your, like, developing your personal faith life, learning more about your faith. You get into those kind of things, but you do that with a support system. You do that with others.
Yeah, and that's how it's meant to. Yeah, no, that's how it's meant to be too, right? I mean, we're all members of the one body of Christ, and so we all are in it. Not to be cliche, but we're all in it together. Yeah,
and a lot of people, God's communal, in the Holy Trinity. There's an example of community right there. The Father loving the Son loving the Father back. You got the Holy Spirit.
Right.
It's just this beautiful example of what, within one God, there's still the baseline of a community, and a community built on love. And so if we are to look like Christ, then we have to love, so I gave a talk once on community, and that was part of, like, my research. I figured out it's just that whole idea that, like, if God is love and God is a community, and love, like, true love, like, what that's supposed to be like is to love and to be loved. And that's kind of like the goal, I guess you could say. If we are to look like God and, like, built in his image, then we are to love and to allow ourselves to be loved. Which that, I think, is what a lot of people miss too, is allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to be loved, to be broken, to be helped. I think I'm spiraling into a whole different thing that I didn't mean to go into.
No, it's great stuff. I mean, the community part, you're exactly right. Letting young adults lead young adults, I think, is good. Is there anything else that you feel like, man, this is what we've done at Catholic culture, and this is what has worked for us, and I think that others, whether it's parishes or individuals who want to start their own young adult ministry, like, this is what has worked for us?
Well, I think everything's gonna be different, because every community has a different, every community, every diocese, every parish does something better than, and then another one does, and then like, so for instance, we don't have adoration, oh my gosh, my brain's going dead. We don't have adoration every day. But at the same time, like, we've got a wonderful Catholic student center. We've got like young adults who have a desire.
Mm-hmm.
Some dioceses have incredible, like, maybe they'll have perpetual. That's the word I was looking for.
Perpetual adoration. Yeah.
Yeah, there we are. But some people might have that, and that's great. But they may not have that community part. They've got the personal connection with God. They've got the sitting in front of the Eucharist, and that's great. And that's something that they can offer, but they may not have the community down. So in a community like that, I would say focus on building that community. In a community like ours, we're probably at a point now where we can start really diving more into the, like, let's focus on building that prayer life. But I would say my advice to any other, especially like young adult ministries that works well for us, mix it up. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, and rely on the traditions in the church. Like if you when in doubt, doing an adoration together, a great like opportunity to just grow in prayer. But I do have a challenge, I guess, is that I think our biggest downfall, the thing that the other churches, these Protestant churches are doing so well, is when you ask a lot of those guys for prayer, they stop and pray with you at that moment. When you ask a Catholic, in my experience, I can't say that for everyone, but a lot of times if you ask another Catholic to pray for you or whatever, you express some issues in your life, oftentimes it's I'll pray for you, and that's it. It's there's no and I think that there's an important disconnect there. Like, we've got to pray with each other, not just for each other. So even in adoration, I don't know how everyone feels about that. I like to take a moment where in adoration, you spend some time by yourself, and then take a moment, if you could put a hand on someone's shoulder and just pray for them specifically. Because I had a beautiful adoration story. This is one of the first times where I finally experienced that like big aha moment. And it wasn't even in the way that I was expecting. It wasn't like a God slapped me in the face, but it kind of was at the same time. I was mad because I wasn't having that experience. I was pouting. I'm in adoration. So I finally gave up and told God, like, hey, if you're not going to talk to me, I'm going to pray for them. Maybe at least you'll talk with them, whatever. So I put my hand on someone's shoulders. I was praying. They put their hand on mine. They started crying. I was like, oh no, I did something bad. So I went and got tissues, brought it back to them. And I'm like, whatever. Shortly after we were done, they came up and told me that they weren't crying because they were upset, but they had asked for a sign. And as soon as they had asked for a sign, I put my hand on their shoulder. And so that was, to me, God telling me that, like, dude, quit complaining. Like, that's whenever I experienced that, like, I experienced Christ through others. And so now I've kind of made it a habit to just kind of, when I can, to go like around and spend, when I'm in adoration, to spend at least a little bit of time praying for the people that are in that in adoration with me. I don't know, because like I wouldn't say necessarily go walking around like praying over people, but like, I don't know, I think there's beauty in that. Like
there is something to that. It's the emotional piece that the charismatics hit so well that is sometimes missing in the, I guess, in the more traditional Catholic spheres.
Yes. And like, we shouldn't focus on feelings and emotion, because like we can make that our God, like we can desire to have this big emotional experience so much so that we're missing the point, and we're missing God and his nuance. But at the same time, I think the other camp over ignores the emotional aspect. Like, we are given emotion, and emotion should be part of our worship and our prayer. And we're allowed to experience it, so it should be there. And so it's not a bad thing if you don't have these emotional like moments with God, if you don't have these major like aha moments. But at the same time, like, we shouldn't discount those who do. And those who do shouldn't discount, like, shouldn't
The other side
focus
of it.
on, yes, like
Yeah.
you shouldn't desire to have an emotional, like, I once heard someone tell me that it was at the young adult or the non-denominational church. They're like, if I'm not crying in praise and worship, whatever, then I feel like I haven't, um, I'm not praying hard enough. I'm not
Yeah.
in it. And I'm like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That to me, that seems like an issue, because it seems like you're chasing the feelings and the emotions and not just sitting there in God's presence.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's more, that individual acting rather than receiving God's grace. Like God is the one who's working regardless of how I feel about it. And I'm just the one receiving it. But I just started getting into, and I say just, like, in the last probably, I don't know, 3-4 months, like, praise and worship. For a long time, I don't know, the whole feelings thing. I was one of the people who kind of neglected that, and I thought, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, truth first. And I still think truth first, but I have definitely adopted more of, okay, like, the emotion, the feeling part, that has a role.
It does. It does. And I can kind of, like, yeah, I mean, I obviously had that moment a few years ago, but yeah, I think that I was the same way. It's like, man, praise and worship, it's a show, it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the music's not very good. I disagree now. There's a lot of good music. Shout out Digital Project, if you know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal music for the Catholic Church. And they're doing great things. And for the non-Catholic praise and worship music, that's still amazing to me. I like Gable Price and Friends. They do some really cool stuff. Repentance is a song of theirs. And I'm like, man, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought they were Catholic for sure. Like, there's just a lot of truth in what they're saying, and it's emotional and it's fun to listen to. But, like, it does help if nothing else, it does help put you in a space to think about God, to reflect on some of these messages. And sometimes it puts words to a prayer that you didn't have before. So Will I was Alex's favorite song, and it kind of became one of my favorites by far, because especially the third verse. And now I'm going to butcher the lyrics, but it talks about the Christ death and his resurrection, and just the beauty of all of that. And it speaks towards the wonder and awe of God so well. Is it theologically perfect? I don't know. I'm not a theologian, so, like, if I said anything wrong tonight, I'm sorry. It's not like I'm an engineer. That's the best I got for you.
We're regular dudes.
Yeah, but we have a desire, man. So I guess correct me if I've been wrong, but So Will I speaks towards this beauty that, like, the earth, that like everything in creation shows. It reflects, and it just reminds you of the wonder and awe. And so I've always loved that line, and it kind of became my mantra, I guess, after Alex had passed, because it gave me a new meaning in a sense. But if you left the grave behind you, so will I. And it's like, to die to oneself, to leave your sins behind, to I don't know, there's just a lot of beauty in that line alone. And a lot of truth in it. So yeah.
Man, there's so much good stuff here. Could you walk us through, the beginning of one of your guys' events, Catholic culture events, to the end? What does that look like? If someone were to go there, what could they expect? Sure.
So first of all, it kind of depends on the event. Our traditional, not like traditional, our typical event would probably look like this. We usually start with, and they're very, like, if you've ever been to a, anyway, it's basically, we'll either do praise and worship before or after, but you walk in, we'll have a speaker come in and speak, and then we'll do a little bit of praise and worship and prayer time, whatever. We've got prayer jars, we've got people, like, ready to pray with you. and then we all go out to eat as a community, whoever's able to, afterwards. And that's kind of the like basic baseline what we do. Some of our other events are adoration events. We do kind of a split like silent time, and then split like some praise and worship and stuff like that. We've also done some more traditional style ones for even Bishop Toops at the cathedral and stuff like that. Our Christmas, like I mentioned, our Christmas event is my favorite by far. If you were to ever go to that, it would look basically like it's a piece of scripture, a reflective prayer, a reflective song, and then about 5 minutes of silence to reflect on that. And we go through like 4 or 5 like scenes of the story of the Christ, of the birth of Christ.
Right.
And it's just very reflective. I don't know. It's my favorite. And I want to start incorporating more things like that, where they're more like prayer services, more reflective. So we're kind of making some changes, but our baseline is your typical talk, some music, some prayer time.
Yeah.
And we hang out beforehand. Like, so we open the doors about 30 minutes before our events, realistically 40. And we hang out, shoot pool.
Do you do this Sunday nights, or when do you do it? Because my local parish has a high school ministry, and it's after the evening mass on Sunday, I think, to kind of capture the people who are already there. When do you guys do it?
Yeah, Monday nights. And part of that was really just because it was a convenience thing. No one does anything on Monday nights.
Sure.
So it's like, what better way than start off your week with a little bit of Jesus? So we do it once a month on Monday nights, the third Monday of every month, unless something changes and we got to reschedule. But yeah.
Yeah. And how many people do you have on your team who help set all this stuff up?
Okay, so our music team consists of Brittany, who's my girlfriend, Troy, Josh, and Zach. The same Josh and Zach who are my co-hosts or whatever.
Yeah.
But they so that's, what is that? I already lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Like 6. Okay.
Yeah. And then me, so 5. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 consistent serve team members who help out with that kind of stuff. So we're looking at about anywhere from 8 to 10 consistent, like Austin and Jacob are our guys for a lot of the setup. And then we got Caitlin and Morgan, who are incredible at helping with, especially with Brittany on some of the like the merch stuff, and helping Austin and Jacob set up. And so we just got a really involved team. And then we have other members, like we had some small groups for a little while focused on mental health.
Yeah.
So on our team for that, where there were 2, one's now a licensed therapist, the other one already was.
Wow.
So
that's another one to tap into. I mean, we could have a whole other conversation about that. How did you get, because I follow your guys' Instagram, and everyone on your team is our age roughly. How did you get people like us, who are the ones leaving, to be so involved?
So a lot of them already were. So Troy is our current grand knight at our Catholic Student Center's, our college Knights of Columbus Hall.
Yeah.
Josh was a net minister. Zach and helped out a lot at Catholic Student Center. Most of those guys I met through the Catholic Student Center. Zach is he was real involved he's a member of our Knights of Columbus Council as well, and was real involved over at in Baytown at his parish. And then, but Austin and Jacob, I actually graduated with from high school. There's a beautiful, I'm going to shout out real quick. If you're going to listen to any episode, you want to cry a little bit, you want to get your feels, the 3-1 podcast, I forget what episode it is. I can look it up in a little while. Well, actually I can't, I'm on my phone right now. But it's the episode with Austin Mayfield and Jacob Gilbo. Those 2 guys, we tell about a lot of our story and how we reconnected, but they were like Jacob Gilbo went to A&M, and Austin it was in trade school. So they were both kind of an example of why Catholic culture does what we do. When Jacob graduated and moved back, he started getting involved, helping out and stuff like that. Austin started helping from the get-go just because he wanted something to get him back involved. Morgan and Caitlin started like coming to our events and then started helping out as well. From there, it's just kind of, and then we've had some members come and go, just, like either moving off but
Man.
a lot of it's just that kind of idea that like, I can't say this works every time, but to kind of allow people to experience a community like that, and then to challenge them to do, like I got another guy who comes every so often when he can, but he's developing a retreat for us right now.
Yeah.
And so like things like that, it's just, that's kind of the goal, is to grow that community and that culture. And so the way we want like to grow is not, I can't take on anything else, but what I can do is try to encourage, inspire others to do that and to take lead in that. And then we as a ministry will help support that to kind of produce it in a sense. And, like you take it and run with it, like the small groups for mental health. That was Luke Mayu. He's now a licensed therapist, but he was a former seminarian. He wanted to find a way to help out the Catholic culture.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why don't you lead a small group? And he was like, I like that idea. And so him and another Catholic therapist, they went in and figured it, like came up with a plan and, presented it to me, and we helped them find locations, and it went, it went fairly well. Women's did better than the men's do because men don't like to talk about their feelings. But,
right.
Typically at least. But yeah, it's, I don't know. It's just kind of that bring them in and try to inspire them to live out their faith. And we're all called to some form of ministry, whether it's to just your household, to your friends, to whatever. But a lot of people feel pulled to do a little bit more. And so we kind of try to plug them in as best we can. We lost 2 really good team members who were locals, but they became the youth directors at our parish. And so obviously they weren't able to help out as much, which is fine because they're doing great work now. But like, like seeing our members go off and do great things is just like, it's, your young adult ministry is not supposed to be something that you just stick around with forever. Right. It's kind of a launching point to kind of get you back in your faith and provide a community so that you can go out and do, like to serve.
Yeah, because at some point you stop being young.
Yeah. I'm experiencing that right now.
Yeah.
But
so so Blake, you're an engineer. For people who are like us, younger dudes working out of college, they're busy. How do you balance the work schedule with being able to do all of this?
Honest answer, not very well. Not very well at all. It's getting kind of rough, especially right now because I'm kind of moving up a little bit in the responsibilities at work. And
sure. Congratulations.
So well, thank you, but it does limit my time, and so there are some things that are probably going to have to shuffle. Also, I'm probably going to be a lot more involved with because Brittany runs our social media as well. We're going to be trying to develop the media side of it a little bit more and continuing that direction of it because just my time is not as available as it used to be.
Right.
That's part of the reason why we had to take a break from the podcast, is so we can restructure it, because all of us were just getting, busy. And I don't like using so my bishop said something once. He said he don't like to use the term busy, and I still use it all the time, but I thought this is a clever way of looking at it. He likes to say his life's very full. And the reason why he doesn't like busy is because busy means burden under Satan's yoke. So it's just it's a different way of looking at it. Now, I'm still guilty of saying busy all the time, but
no, that's a good word, man.
I know. Shout out Bishop Toops, but my life's been very full, and I'm finding ways to try to lessen that. I'm putting more responsibilities on my team. And they're stepping up like incredibly. But we're gonna launch the podcast again. It won't be every 2 weeks; it'll be once a month. But yeah, man, we're just kind of like, it's a balance act. But like, I think it's important to remember that your own sanity and like your own personal relationships and like your family, your relationships with like, your significant others, if you have a girlfriend, wife, fiance, whatever, like it's important to put the proper amount of time into that before you can feed others. Like you kind of have to prioritize that in a sense. And so I'm figuring out how to balance that.
We all are, man. We all are.
Yeah. It's not the easiest, but yeah,
I hear you. That's great. So can you tell us a little bit about the 3-1 podcast, kind of when maybe we could expect to hear the next episode?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would like to encourage you to, if you listen to our podcast, go easy on us. We jumped into this as just kind of 3 guys hanging out, just like talking about their faith, talking about their life, what's going on in their life, and trying to show what it looks like to live out the Catholic life. From guys who don't, we don't have theology degrees. We don't have anything like that. We just love God, love people. And we have a few reasons why we named the podcast 3-1. Part of it is the whole he left the 99 to find the one. Well, there's 3 of us. We're all the one. So that's part of it. Also, because I'm the way I am, and I wanted it to have a little bit of a scripture reference too. So I did a deep dive on, and this one really kind of spoke out to me, and it works because of anyway, but it's Proverbs 3:1. And it says, "My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart." And the whole point is to kind of like let people tell their stories, let people let us talk about our lives as Catholics and the things that we're going through. But throughout all of the things that we are going through, or the things that we're experiencing, we're trying to keep his commands, his teachings, and all that in our hearts. And so it kind of reflects to what we're intending to do with the podcast. I'm not saying we do it well, but that was the intention. To answer your next question, when to expect, I'll change it to when and what to expect. So we started out, it was just 3 of us, and we tried to do some topics, and we did okay with it. Didn't really do our research and stuff in a lot of them. Then we started doing a lot of interviews, and I love the interviews. There's some great stories in there. People like local people. And then we had Vera Maria Santo. Yeah.
I watched that one.
That one was great. Love her to death. We had a power outage in the middle of it, so that was fun. We had Taylor Schroll come on from Forte Catholic, which was really cool. I'm still trying to get Amy back on. Eventually we're going to have John Finch from Visual Project, if we can work out a time and day, because I really want to do something cool with the music side of that, because Josh plays guitar and sings, and then Zach, so Josh Palermo and Zach LaBeouf, there's your shout outs, guys. Zach plays drums and cajon, and then John obviously sings and plays keyboard. So I was going to see if we could plug everything together and let them do like a little praise and worship at the end of our episode. So we'll see. I don't know if that's still going to happen, but I haven't talked to John in a while about it because we've been on break, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll get that rolling. But I think we're going to restructure. And Bishop Toops will be coming on at some point. But we're going to restructure and kind of try to like put a little bit more effort into planning the episodes, doing kind of segments in a sense where we'll have like scripture reflections, we'll have topics, we'll have interviews still. We'll do it once a month. I'm looking for an editor, like a video editor, because your boy can't find the time to do that. And
it takes time to do this stuff. Just real quick, I was listening to, I can't remember which Paul brother it was, the YouTube dudes, and which the one who boxes? or do both of them box?
Both of them now, I think.
I can't remember which one it was in the interview, but they asked him like, which one's harder, boxing or YouTubing? And he goes, YouTubing. Like, I spend so much time editing video. Like, it takes a lot to do this.
It's a lot, and it's a lot of work, and it's fun. But like I have time to edit audio. We don't do a lot of editing in general. It's pretty much what's said stays, the mistakes stay. It kind of provides that like aspect of like realness, I guess.
Yeah.
And we want it to feel like you're hanging out and having a conversation with us. At the same time, like that's one thing we really try to do is like make it feel as like engaging, not as overproduced, just like you're sitting and hanging out.
Yeah.
And just listening in on our conversation. But at the same time, like video, I really want us to get involved in YouTube. I think it'll help us grow. I think it'd be fun. We've had 2 sets now. Both of them are really cool. This is our newest set or setup, whatever. Room's awesome. Still trying to get this wall painted black, but I don't know if I can get my parents to let me paint their house like that. But in general, we've got this beautiful thing. I want to showcase that, but I can edit a podcast, like the audio. If there's an hour of audio, I can do it in about 45 minutes to an hour additional time in the editing. Like I can kind of wipe through it pretty quickly. Video is a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
And I just don't have the desire to learn all that. I've learned too many different little skills throughout this process of ministry. So I will drive myself insane. So I'm trying to find a video editor. We don't have much monies, so that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I just said much money. But anyway, like our podcast, we had a deal with Corda Catholic, which I've got one of their candles burning right here, for a couple episodes, and that was great. And that kind of helped us get some stuff for the studio. We had people donate towards the studio, which was amazing. We have a deal with Hallow, but we don't really make any money off this podcast, and that never was the goal. But I would love to put more money into that so I can get someone to kind of edit for me. So, but yeah, I still haven't answered your question. Oh my gosh. So we'll be making some changes. The goal right now is to launch back again in April. It could potentially be May, but our next episode should be late April to early May.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep my eyes open for that.
Absolutely.
On that note, what before we get to the speed round, what are the platforms and what are the names where people can find you?
So that's a great question. I'm about to forget my own handles. So Instagram and Facebook for the 3-1 podcast, at the 3-1 podcast. Catholic Culture, I think, is at Catholic Culture YA or at Catholic Culture YA. I can send you the links if you want to post.
Yeah, we'll put them in the description.
They're also Facebook and Instagram, and then you can find me at Blake Smith 018. I think at on Instagram. I have a Twitter. I can't remember my at for that. I got Facebook, but yeah.
Yeah, send me those links and I'll put them in the description boxes.
Absolutely.
So speed round, this is just so the listeners can kind of get to know you a little bit better. The questions will be this or that, or what's your favorite? And if you could just answer like first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Okay.
I'm a little bit long-winded. I apologize.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Okay, first one.
Okay.
Are you a morning person or night person?
Ooh, night.
All right. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Augustine or Aquinas?
Aquinas, probably.
Okay. Favorite holiday?
Christmas? Yeah, or Halloween, because I was born right before it, so it's like that.
Nice.
Anyway.
Yeah, mine is Christmas, and then my fiance's is Halloween. So now right mine there. That's it. Favorite sacrament?
The Eucharist. Bonus is confirmation. I think that's a beautiful.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Awesome. And then last one, because we're in the middle of it right now. March Madness or college football playoffs?
College football playoffs.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's good, man. I love
my dad's
both.
a football coach, so Yeah. So I've got that tie to football.
I got you. I'm a basketball coach. So college football season overall is my favorite season.
Mm-hmm.
But man, for me, nothing beats March Madness.
March Madness is a lot of fun. I'll give you that. I will. But yeah, I'm just such a diehard football and baseball guy.
I got you, man. Well, Blake, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for what you're doing for Catholic culture.
Yeah.
You see what
Absolutely.
I did there?
I do. I love
it. Thank you for sharing your insights. Thank you for sharing what's working for you guys. And I hope that whoever listens to this can take really good things away, because there's a ton that you have to offer, that Catholic culture has to offer, that the Through One podcast is doing. And that whoever, again, is listening to this can take these things away, these golden nuggets, and share the truth, beauty, and goodness of the Catholic faith with everyone around them. Thank you guys for tuning in again to the Modern Catholic Life podcast. I'm your host, Dallas, joined today by Blake Smith of Catholic Culture. We'll see you next time.
Y'all have a great one. Pray for us.
Thanks again for tuning into the Modern Catholic Life podcast. For more content sharing the truth, beauty, and goodness of the Catholic faith, you can follow, like, and subscribe to our Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook by searching @Modern Catholic Life. We'll see you next time.